say me the former auditor general. So we pay auditor general make me aka so a celebrity because aban mu celebrity because o change the face of auditing. O me hu say enye te say ye sori ani age nyoma na de akwa kogu na ye ma obi ehu. Eno hye ase no ye me hu say Ghana say ye wusika o na nkrofo wie bi di bia. Ehun sem bibiri ebai. I'm sure say ne legacy ni bi na ene ye ni abre ne president nso ani abre say ye audit wie ni ehun so adi sika fast track ye be ehun adwuma. Ye ra Daniel ya Domelevo, the former Auditor General of Ghana. And now I am a special guest. Open your match. But John here. Yenso yen hu ye pa. Enim se woni bre nso nyame nhyira se waje bre se oni ebetwetwe nkomo.
Me da say.
And I no pay as our guest. First of all, Mamindi Kambusao. Ghana te saying, baby, I wait Jine, and in your ma wohui. Ghana et saying.
Yo, me da say. Mamimfa akwenye iso na mintia kumasefo. Miba kumasi ache kakra. Na ansana meka Ghana ho asem no uka education eto makuma sopa. Because addition yesian moyen as a member. Minuma no me no. Apart from skills na wo kan ho asem no. Ethics nso enkan ya busi addition ho. Nti atumfo ne aketegi a omako school aben pa no. Ya de ngumasua na say addition no ebeboa ye man no. Ye de boy ye man emum. So our education is rather being used to destroy the country instead of developing or building the country. So that is my view, and I support your position very well. We have to change our education. Now, say yeba my Ghana.
Before say yeba Ghana hokrana, I'm interested in this one because I know you me preamble so that we zoom into Ghana because ni naka Ghana. I'm just thinking good. If we say my argument is. Yes, in Krakro ma bay, ye becan so Oma says the same cranning to say to Diano. But me aware say Oma ma bay president in Yan Crofua, and Oma ma bay ministers Yan Crofua, yet to mutete breno. And tete brena na yes, no de near tete bay ye, yet a team nipe ye, yet Romusamo mo chrono, courtesy for boys and girls. No. A yet Dana after 68 years. It appears to say, Muna yetiti muye no, yen sedenya the proper dividend in faso bebre the abetiani say ya broke eguni apam we ni akowe yes we ade omunyina nso ye mpanifo. What happened?
Ne eba ne say minia madrimu no entitie eye pa se wotiti akwara yi a obetimi anyi aye panyimpa. Nemo interese watiti ni ye no be panyimpa obetimi asesa na edien ne ma se wode Ghana ana Africa etu amanoni ana bruchire ho a ye danso ene se ye need systems and minim se the car system e wo twi mu
inhihye
yeah ye need inhihye ebema wa brabo no akotin Nhyira se wo ko brochira wo de fa obi free Kumasi anasin kran abonte so na fa ne koto abrochire wo man nkyerɛkyerɛ bia nso so obedi mra so obedi time so obedi bibia so because a home system no emma kwan ze misbehave eno na de bia mebo ho dawuro se yamfa sa nhyehyɛ na anto yamamuom anase abrabomu a ebe hadwen eno na edi ehwamoyi si ye betimi aye nhyehyɛ se emfa ho se wo ye Asante Anakumasi dishe anase wo ye omampanyimba wo ye we na se etia mra na ye do be fa mra kwan no so nse mitaka bibi se potokasem se because there are no consequences for misbehavior misbehavior has taken a higher level or impunity has set in. Nhyira sika mprem bebre one more normal emfata mprem bebre na de aye amanyosem esan say beka say Daniel we okrofo sika na waje no enye usika fabra ye beji sika na san twa aso no yes MPP NDC na mu NDC mu we are more than us MPP mu we are more than us na at the end of the day Nhyira abeye attractive eno na high nka ebe nwanwa say wutie generation any generation dimanim wutie omo a ebi beka kiro say omo school mpo no ne ye serve omo ebi say omo school kura mu mie na ye de companies aba ebi say ehi na obi adwuma aso nti abre na ye ka ho asem nsuso wo hwe mpanyimfo na omo oman mu a say ministers na asefo a nka onwuma sua no enro anim ti say ene de yi nti eba ne sen ina ene yenkwada wie school a omo nya adwuma nye eba ne sen ina akrachifo ubeti o say oye professor doctor so nkwasi asem nkwa na odi because inshishe be ni ho ye de fahudie no akoye say utumi ebribi a wo pe anas ubeti ma misbehave. That's why we have interpreted our democracy to mean nti eno na de abesi saa mpempenso a ye wo musesi.
Interesting. Nti sementi wase dia echese Ghana problem no o kata wani kra na o predict 10 years based on the etie dia by maybe 5 years ye freuna nyankopon enya maya ye besa ka the same thing na ye ka ne no bibia nche dansesa
anje kura be west because enena zameka o TV so say Abraham join accountant general in 1990s early 90s no na sikawia na say for na wo ho pa na wo nso na amount ne nkete ya beti be 1000 Ghana cedi ana so yeti 20,000 kuranja say abroso emra 2,000 thereabout no afeneska na peje ni mu beti na 100,000 you see 200,000 say and millions and billions are going enti say yanhwe yi ya dachi ana say enche yebede nyane no na minister of finance akachi say he consolidated fund no mo wie sika na wo mu nyina tie ni sika bia de baby bia Nhyira ko na eko animu enti say anso no ntem a ebe ha adwene because say kwesi ewia na say anya ne hwe kwadwo wia na say anya ne hwe a ya onsusu be wia.
I remember say maybe na me interview on my former station and me busa o say me busa afa isikawie ya ho and I say mo call forum bi na sa forum no sa mre na no aba ye to nka say auditor general de we aba we awie sika auditor general de we aba we awie sika sa ema o ka say obi busa o say enti wo ma wo di aba say wo ma wie sika na ye o mo den went to me and answer because they were shocked say she NC. I don't know whether you recollect that one.
Yeah, me kaipa because one say amemuna ye and as a politics no and a governance no and she share wo and say obiansusu woni to me say we are auditor general majuma ni say na majuma ni say me audit na me the report aba na obi a wafa abensika emfa kwemu no emra no maho kwan say metwi na so ana say me issue what we call disallowance and surcharge na who issues that disallowance and surcharge na say enama kumako dunsia ana say 60 days epa ho na onia no wamfama nkokota endie na Audit Service Act Section 17 ejere se sika no abeye sika eze se aban eje na se aban beji se sika no so a na emrakuni ni ewo omemu a friend constitution article 88 say attorney general nkwa na owo say to me say obeko court akọji aban sika amano enti me yes disallowance ni say charge na me the copy akoma attorney general but attorney general fa ne ti anye enti na oha obie ni ho a ye disallow na say charge na aban edi ejire ekokoji na japade na se sika edi betu aka no anase se wantu aka na obeko fiase na se bibisa no ensi because na aban krachia na ofesa jumadi ni so no one me nyadwen
Nhyira fan
nese bra wo breye etena se ehwehwe mu se obi adi Ghana sika na nya hwehwemu ma yehu se evidence wo so mawie sika nti na wo se aban krachi panyi a wo hwe se obagi sika no ne wo etwema nso nti saa sika na omomu di ye no ekọ hwi ensi biem enye sa
piansi na mo minyi ni se hwi ensi biom miji se akwanya aba wo betumi asan kwa kohwe na mikai asema wo ke mikai nsem mienu eno kura na nsem mienu enu pa na hyeme ne di kan se o kaya ebia na wo nkai mo Zoom Lion eji sike bia na emfa kwam ntimi disallow ese charge no
okay
ena Zoom Lion edemi call court say there be onime nyadwen na Justice Mensa Dacha the then High Court judge edi asem no mame say media wom because ohwa ekwa Zoom Lion fa so eji sika no emfa kwam nti sama me no mebo me nsema ma no pa ena Zoom Lion appeal ena appeal no appeal court na appeal court no one challenge accusation no kodo amede ball no de one challenge eno o see auditor general need to me say ono gi abansika na say owi abansika auditor general betimi disallow and say asset charge no
really
Ena Court of Appeal and you come down Supreme Court say we there interpretation into Supreme Court any interpretation my and church remember my but here this is Supreme Court in Occupy Ghana versus Attorney General one more can say the Auditor General should say charge everybody and they put into bracket be a public servant or not. Just we abanjuma yeni anase wunya abanjuma kra na se wutimi egi abansika na se wuya abansika auditor general betimi ase charge no sa Supreme Court na se twa ne ho I can say auditor general betimi aye enso so judge na odi asem no one you can potokasemo he didn't establish the guilt of fraud. There was no fraud. And in that case, Auditor General's mandate is not activated.
What?
Emma, Omuma, Zoom Lion, for 411 million Ghana cedis a year.
What?
And this is how the type of system I work. I judge you for a cuckoo dam or member. Bebre, mambo for. Min Canada, Dudona, a beer pa, but Dudona, ya mambo for. Because woman say me obi say me boa onfa occupy Ghana versus Attorney General. So officer case now on area omu friend no consequential orders. Eko ewie ho no. Omu ma bribia e friend consequential orders. And in the consequential orders no most state here say Auditor General shall set charge disallow and set charge anybody and into bracket public servant or not who is involved in causing losses to the state or deficiency to the state. One was and can say, yes, Oma council so Omoboa. I just say, judge, establish, say there is fraud and so and Lion the same thing. So Obekaya, many Osafumafu, and a crew and associates. So Obekaya. And so, Kwaya opinions Osafumafu, Efa Swa, otua over $1 million US dollars no me hwehwe madwene mu de na emfa kwa mu enti ye disallow ese charge ye ena ono so de ye court justice bi a ye friend afia and they were free high court echo court of appeal eni ye de court dan anim na ye twa asem ena ayi osafo mafo se nenti a adwuma a omo edi sika ne ye no omo amfa nkyere ayi auditors no just because of national interest and I say national security concerns enti na omo ntimi amfa nkyere auditors na jan ken so auditor general I audit presidency I audit even national security but omo kyere say adwuma bi wo ho a eno de omo ya omo mfa nkyere auditors eni yesi emre bia ni ho akwanya bia ni ho se ubetimi di aban sika ayedwuma na wosi wunna hu adi enkyere auditors eno so ena omo se justice fiase sadia interpretation into yanko supreme court na supreme court enkyere ye kwan eno so ko dan supreme court yeduru ho na omo bi sa me se enti se omo mame akwanya se adwuma oye no minsan konkohwe a mekwa na eno mi si da bi through me lawyers emi ga jon se da bi min kohwe because se audit scan ye adwuma na nka at the time of the audit nka audit se adwuma no be kire enye ne ansana wodi ba be kire because se ye yesa hwehwe na ebe hadwi because ekwa animu no ye diskama ona na janto ase kokosi school na wensi school no na auditor general disallow ese charge wa mfie mienu echi ubetima afrese obra bewe afede masi school no and there will be no infraction ever in life.
I get it.
And a Supreme Court is saying there almost sorry kakra do omo ba ya twaso omo kwa minimi omo go kan he omo ba no ka chem say well Supreme Court decision no omo decide say mimpeo mingongo he adwuma na owura osafomafo eye no na memfa emoye emre omo say so many anase so many as auditor general.
Wow.
Enti omo mame ukaya omo mame 10 days say minko say adwuma na mensamra me lawyer penyi sorry omo ka chen so trase omo ntie onzi min trase yenko ene yekoye ni nanum actually 5 days ena omampenyi ka say minko leave na mi call tintin no 167 days leave no
I see.
ena omampenyi say call leave ena mi call leave na dichie adam she leave as na dichie ena auditor general ozisia na oyemi deputy etro letter come Supreme Court say wakohwe adwuma na owura asafo mafo eye no na nani so wetimi plan audit I carry out the audit extra report within 24 hours the fastest audit ever on earth.
Wow.
The Supreme Court so ag2 mu and the omo g2 mu na omo draw a high court justice efia say adwuma na misi woman fan kire auditors no afede omo de akire auditors na auditors ni say o mani so ena justice efia ebo asemi na guye miwa justice efia mi kai kwadu ai de bo owura osafoma na enye adwuma no nkwan o yes procurement process no kura wa ni so because uhwe hihye na omu tie sika no ansana omu enter into the contract ena omu enter into contract no so no omu ye contract no so ansana omu ko PPA akoji approval to enter into the contract
Nhyira fan.
enti omu eka no eko reverse gear nka won hihye bia mu no nka woji approval for PPA no wa enter into the contract who enter into the contract now who the contract no so a oni anu ye dwuma na watua nso we de omu tua aka no ansa na omu eba contract no so free contract nso ansa na omu ko hoji to me say ye contract no na eno kura yɛmfa no sɛ ɛno mpo de ɛnyɛ nso yɛmfa nto nkyɛn na wohwɛ approval na ɔwura ɔsafomafo agyina so sɛ ɛno na wɔn de ɛkata contract na wɔn yɛ ansa na wɔn gye approval no so a wohwɛ saa letter na PPA letter no as a public procurement authority letter no ɛyɛ owura akandapa ɛna wɔn kyerɛ no National Security Ministry ɛnyɛ Senior Minister's Office nti GS ntumi nkɔgye approval na Health Minister use public service ɛnyɛ adeɛ saa nso so ne nyinaa Justice Afia ɔbɔ ne nyinaa gu yɛ yɛka kyerɛ no mpo sɛ wɔ Public Financial Management Act no minkae the very section but around 33 yɛwɔ biribi a yɛfrɛ no environment sɛ wowɔ Senior Minister's Office na wopɛ sɛ wouse sika a ɛwɔ Ministry of Finance ɛde yɛ adeɛ a agye sɛ wokɔ Parliament kɔgye approval enti ɛno nso so no owura asafomafo wabu saa mmara no so antɔ owura Justice Afia asum na anyɛ me nwanwa sɛ ankyɛ odi saa asɛm no ankyɛ ɛne yɛ maa ne so de ne kɔ Court of Appeal ɛna neɛ ɛsɛ yɛ me nwanwa koraa ka ho ne sɛ Nana Gyanto a ɔno Justice Afia no sɛsi a ɔyɛ high Court of Appeal judge lawyer fo mmienu a wɔn gyina mu ma ɔsafomafo wɔn nyinaa yɛ Court of Appeal judge wɔn nyinaa the judge and the lawyers they are all now Court of Appeal judges nti katase hyɛ ne prɔyɛ no a yɛntumi nkuntia no institutions bebree including the judiciary wɔn di yɛ hwamɔ wohwɛ a nti mi deɛ madwene no so minka ntia wɔn nyinaa sɛ agyagyefoɔ a ɛwɔ kurom ha nyinaa nyɛ apapafoɔ wɔ mu paa.
Well, statistics bi nso bɛkyerɛ wo sɛ Ghanafoɔ nhyɛ dan ni gyidie wɔ court system no and every day biara CDD report ne ba one institution a Ghanafoɔ susu sɛ corruption wɔ hɔ paa ɛyɛ the court judges ne n'asefoɔ no ɛnsesa yɛ in fact anansi de ba yɛ bɛ pɛmɛ no de biara wo de ba court system no still naa no ɛnsesa yɛ and it feeds into the okay maame mbusa o kasa me sense frustration o you frustrated on about corruption fight.
I'm frustrated but I will never give up because we can't me microphone crying say yeah kumpona eko say ye jaya and ye nti enya di abebu da call the abekoso because say nyame be frɛ yɛn sɛ nyame mfrɛ yɛn de a yɛnyaayɛ.
All right.
Now, me the two medicine home. You see, we have health sector or diseases. The world has never been able to overcome diseases. But we will never give up the fight against diseases. If we do, we will all die in a few months. So it's the same thing with this corruption.
Right. So then it's also come back to the near Kanwasem no say. Ye can't morals asem ene kra na akwete so enkra yentwo mutirimi ma yentwo mutirimi yenye ni say na eyesa nkra ne be say and all those things. But I was thinking about the correlation between saa nyoma we nyina ye be kaseme yenye because ye tete omu now share judges here judges nso a yehu omu pictures nyina obi anu a sebi ebia ayere so abon se ebia 50 kono na say omu ye nkofo a 20th century no ne yetri ni obia and I'm thinking na no Nicolas Sarkozy French ye de na kwa akotum and judges ya ebi class abran no na oye president no me judges so man na wo ho o matimi de na tum ye nya situation na etimi ka so jeje no ye kromfo wi ade kofo no ye kromfo wi ade Atamils John Mahama part 1 no ye kromfo wi ade perceive obi akan and so we realize that omobeba abetena fie bibia nsi yenya situation where 2016 campaign MPP for kan and say John Mahama inflated prices circle interchange Dubai and yoma bebre wa wiem Jida Sada ni akanisa owie ye no wasaba ye president na no nso na NDC fo nso di gu na Akufo-Addo so wa wia we PDS wa hwan owie ye no waba betena fie kra yes support so na making sure say o is statesman. When you have a situation like this, ye be kan say every say ye me ehun say John Mahama ye kromfo ya nche no o ma me ehun say MP before ya kromfo mpanyifo no mo yes no all the testing na sefo obi abene na ho a wa hwe kra na ora ye amaye be 8 years kra ni ntimi nya hwe na ye ti say opuni case na ye full case unya situation bi say ya wo perspective no ebe yi
enye ye minia as CSM accountability starts from the very top. Enti Ghana nso nye the only country ye wo oman aman wo asase so doso pa na wo hwe aman bebre wo hono ma they hold the president accountable no ma bebre wo ho a Akufo-Addo aya na se wutumi hu se oka ho bi e na tumi siye nso se eja no ti said ye wo ken se Owura Mahama bra ofiri abamu yes wayese nso so obia any holding accountable for the same thing. Rollins time, Ghana, there were issues. And Akoya said there's an unwritten law on corruption in Ghana. Say we are mampenia. Wuti mi fa ohudi. And so emrakuni ni ewo memu encheresa. The emrakuni ni ewo memu cherese. That is constitutional. Cherese. Say what so ye o mampenia. Then we cannot hold you criminally or civil liable. The civil liability and criminal liable cannot be instituted against you in any court when you are still the president. Nemum se who free idea so you bet me out so anytime. Eko se impiami and sambetwem. And says you say afiba ko yasu. Enche bia na afiba ko. Na kan fie mienu. Yanso Akufo-Addo mu a. That is all. Says he say in some now wokan about President Mahama no we are hwehwe enye ye because ofri abamu no ebro 3 years and sana osamba and this year no the constitution enjoined us not to touch him.
But is that not excuse my word a stupid law when
Yadia too stupid Utie lawyer for Omega just a crime has no expiry date for you and me crime has no expiry date. But we are mampeni dia our expiry date 3 years. Enye nkwasi asem. Sabi mpese mercy obi kwasia. But me gidi se samra na ya hihye no fakwam. Nemu emfakwam mpo no. Akwanya da ho a nka every na kosi 3 years after Nana Adudankwa Akufo-Addo ofri abamu no yetimi di ko gina asem dibia. As a yesika na odiko see a national cathedral no bebre amfa kwemu chira no sky train awusu woye a whole lot of things awusu woye na wo mampo etimi enya big contract every abemu no a conflict of interest under article 284. The public officer should not put him or herself into a position where his or her interests conflict with the office. Nti wuti mi de abansika ema unkwada se mfankonko ye juma etwe yi anase mtwe yi saa akwenya no anhwe ano so ba betwe mako afina lawyer for aka kire say constitution ma ho kwan bi say mfie miensa so.
I don't know say bia constitutional review committee ne ehia say omeshiawo nebia sa issue aba would you want to perhaps revisit say sa law na yagia tum from JJ Breso say we free so a mfie miensa pe a yenim sa wokọ abrochira Nicolas Sarkozy ade na okoye ye no ebe 2007 ho ba bi o yesi den chese enye ne kra be 10-15 years ago bi a yesi yesusu say Kofo bi na nkema ni sika for campaign da no yetimi ama na ekwa akodem 5 years. Would you propose say sir there will kind in your words extremely stupid law no yensesemu na ye man it say we are president na ubedi dwirima yemfa timeline to so time bia will be sorry who say na Akufo-Addo odi sika John Mahama odi sika no yebetimi atwe aso.
Sa kwanya no ba me de beto manim na me kenzo so me de nsem bebre ato manim me nim ze o bedi ho adwuma we nyina ka ho nka kire say it doesn't sound reasonable to me. Say the 3 million Ghanaians udi boni and say if you commit a crime the law says there's no expiry date, but a few umunya akwan be ye mampanyin de obetime di boni bia ope se ni tie na se ofri so na mfie miensa ya frangosi angojira asem dibia inde chese wonya ne wa adi enya asema etomasum ina nsem bebre ina me no mabobọ so na owura kwesi prempa oti dwomu emangrobo menene kasapa nti we asema yedi hu nkomo.
Right, I'll be glad we the eba mani beje pa the issue of galamsey so ya de
megasi ya de yenti megasi ya de ne say galamsey any corruption no akwai sebiu wo nana jantoa wujina bucket mu anase basket mu anase bucket na yesi ma honso anase lift yourself up with the bucket. It is your weight which is keeping the bucket down, so I don't know how you are going to lift yourself. Atu voni akitechi a omo bo oman ediafa galamsey so no omo na yesa hwe omanimu nti se nyame adom na omo yo madwin se afedi o masakra se ye ka galamsey asem na eye na ebi enhyeda entiase papa omo de anibre nyina akosua eye nuanum mrantie ne mabawa omo hye efom ho etutututu agudie no omo nkwana ya yeni ehwe omo ya ni ewre free ho se ye misa se excavators no why na import back omaimu omo hye office omo hye coat air condition room won kran any kumase bisa ho se cyanide any mercury na se for omo the process gold no why enekra ediba omaimu mi ji se okonwure mo okohu kwara na obisa ho se mercury ehi na free a ebi kura nim akwan efa so eba omaimu nti atumfo na ketechie ena hye ase nti se ye betimi ayama yaso galamsey ya no a eye pa se abande asojafo enasefo akonwure mo epam nkwara no eye onchi omo empam wona yenso eninte nso so be hia nso se atumfo ne aketechi a omo hye akire no yema ye niko omo so se would cyanide record no ye ko customs a ye be hu se mfie be du anase mfie be enum a etwem koi wo na na jantoa wo de cyanide anase mercury be so many tons eba kruimu ese o cheche mu juma odi se ye die no akira ye betimi anya the actual corporates ebe so ano because se excavator emabio na mercury ni ho na se for wonsan kan minyi se galamsey na betimi akoso min kire se nia omode ye legal mining no eno so member but we can trace it. There was something we call audit trail from the import to the receiver to the distributing chain. You betimi atrace ni na won say e be mu 50% and 60% ena ye didi juma papa ena ni aka no ena ye de boy ye de say ye mine no ese ye so no ano eso no kuzi se yenso eni beti enya sa ye nyina bewu so me no ni na aduane a wudi enso a wonum na zefo na heavy metals ewo ndi yeku ye ho ndi je se aban eye na adwen se emfa ho se woye opposition emfa ho se uka maban ho mi nsaka nkwa ade a me no bedi se yanye ne sa which is the same system I'm talking about. But Ghana no Kronubia announce Bonibia it depend upon say we are politician kwandi a ubone no ubetimi akuni pampo wa ohia se ukaya ebinuma wu na no kora na de amanyosem se kono sadia enye yi menua
John Mahama obetimi to corruption ase.
Very easy kura obetumi atu na akwantu a na nhyehyɛ ɔde etu kwa mu no ɛyɛ pa ebetumi abrɛ corruption ase but wɔ menhwehwɛ mu no akakra akadeɛ bi wɔ hɔ no ma enim na se yɛmfa saa akadeɛ na nka ho a menyini sɛ obetumi ayɛ amana yie efisɛ corruption no enya de obetumi dis etuo ni sikan akɔ fight no wo de mra ena fight no nti menhihye wo madwem no ye won hihye ba ko mienu bi a ɛsɛ de to kwam one ɛyɛ the proof reverse burden or what we call unexplained wealth and hihye bi wo emremu a se ekoba se me marketia eye 20,000 bosome mincha se afimu nyina marketia be 240,000 na ma ejuma 1 year ye behwe na me wo 20 million eda my account mu a et me as semitimi chekire mu kwa me fa so nya sa 20 million no na se mantimi anchire mu dia ntia se mabokro no that is the reverse burden. I the accused must prove how I got that wealth. Samrane eni Ghana. Kakra bi na wo Ghana. Minga se eni Ghana kra. But kitu abi o. So we article 286 clause 4. As it say, if you declare your assets and your subsequent declaration, the increase in wealth is not in tandem with your income or gifts or any other known sources of income, then you have acquired that assets contrary to the constitution. That is the unexplainable wealth. And I was called Money Laundering Act, Section 1, Subsection 3 in Suswa. As is occupy what do you call it? YOCO, that is Economic and Organized Crime Office. Investigate you on money laundering. Na se wo japade bia ye de tu uketua na se fo ho a enko a nje se you are guilty of money laundering. And no na me say as say ye bie mu, we have to expand it to all corruption related cases because corruption wo hui obi ani ho a omu wia abansika e wo bedwam enti se obi akwakokum nipa anaso wabo krono ne achi no okejetia na we de eye mpanyifo akukudam o madwu dopa e na ebo ye krono nti se ubenya om edne nti se wo aketua eye 10 cedis na 10,000 na afimu total income 120 na mumu 10 million eda wa accounts mu a enough to tell us say we kromfo agi say uchire yen se bia udi loto ana say o papa bi ana say o abushe ni bi wi na o de japade jaw na ene de ye ti ase nti sa law no eni Ghana sesia nti say ye court na say police ni ana say prosecutor ene be prove say Daniel 10 million na eda na account mu owia ya edi pa nti enye easy eno ye 1 2 wo ni say obi bokro no ana say owia amoman sika krono America na corruption o memfre corruption theft nti obi ewia aban sika na ye de ni kogina court a unim say asem ye ni mani enwie ntem ebi a fie bebre ebi a 4 years 7 years ne ye da so ya nti akromfo no oni omo lawyer for ehihia anaso adwe ya na ewo mo etrimu ni se won betwi asen mu tan won betwi ni saa kosi se aban besisa uti ya na nsen yan enche bia na eti se nolly prosecutor aban se onye interested in some cases anymore nti eno so me sere se esese ye mra edi time eto ho say ye try corruption case ebia afi abruswa afi anase abruswa 9 months ukai nansenya former agric minister ewo China oje bribe any corrupt practices totaling about $38 million.
Right.
Almost sentencing to death. Now that trial now ended up in death. No, it was done in only 3 months. Busum yansa. Se China for any busum yansa na ye de yabon ye ntimi nya ne ntem kura. And ye ma hu busum nsian. And I said busum nkrompo ana afi. But Ghana, you pay the afe. A friend saying so. Aban sisan, just say asem so assistant. Now akwako si na wiye.
That's interesting.
Afen so say who person who clean a friend say who prepare ensuo every day mo. Who mwe tap ensi so na unko so empepa. Who close the tap no first me boy. So if you want to wipe the room, you don't keep the tap on. You must close the tap. One of the institutions I bet me are buying power or memo internal auditors. Because one more year professionals to say external auditors, but one more year 24/7 they are in the MDs and I say
yeah.
And sana ubetwesika no wo nti ye independent of the spending officers nka ebeboa minim say womu bi nso se bia na womu nye correct there but nyini se womu na nye correct nti ka eno nso beboa yen ama ye hu say say ade internal auditors wo say if we can say auditor general they are making ono oba at the end of the year satam na city dada
but I know
again. Yeah.
Senior, and another person buza say, for example, the alleged corruption na ye kan wan say me for national service there Abdul Hanan ye buffer stock ne adai no. Obete so no transfer sika free hand free bank ne ko ha, and the question is enti ade ntimi emfa auditors no internal auditors no enka ho because minim say aban adwuma answer na abenya 1000 Ghana cedis mpo no. Bra be bra twia fa ho boa ansa na wonsa aka na no na me ne doctor bi di nkomo wo Kwame Nkrumah suapon mu no say or per laptop no kura in 20,000 kona bra ne hwan ne wo so sign ko a enso so bet no ne say kwabrani timi $78 million wotimi a transfer free bank akọ na accounts mu ana obi adi 600 million Ghana cedis na yenhu. The question is yachi de oye panyino na auditor ne wo mo sign no eno ne mra na kase yen fom nka wana
wo mi na ka ho na ena me kan midi kan ne say Ghana ko say yen fight against corruption politically led entinia ye hwe ne na jantoa ntisi yen saka no kwa de a aka ho nyina omanfa mu ho adi internal auditors, the directors, the storekeepers, the bankers. Asa nana jantwa uko bank sisi asa uko 200,000 Ghana cedis. Minim say ube answer questions pa.
Eteze bi ekra na mebu afu.
So one more there etoma pastor utie investigation na standing to brand ko etoma na ko. Because say obi ewo bank ho a no so kan we say ekoko do ano. Na internal auditor ye fano director or approve ye fano opinion ye request ye fano procurement officer or share high ema ekoso ye fano yes some nyina bomu a ena na asante fo aka bibi say dia enya wa ba wo no ye ntwa so me bo a
yetu ase
yetu ese yetu ase ye ntu esan se dia amanyo semunti no ye twa so ni aba se boy se bo se maye because ye twa so.
Then in that case, na say Yerajo Mahama so you can say crocro the John na. Every say I'm expecting say Attorney General. Ebetimi who say national service case enye gift to Warren Kwane or CSB. Auditors internal bankers one why mu nyina yedumudi aba. that is what we are expecting. But I say yeah, ben a gift to a worry, but gift to a worry say I'm pa obi ne simano. But you share Dante's name no free Attorney General numu say ye do mu nyina account other than they are okay politically exposed people here you can want me na.
No cry. I say crime no. You need that only the politically exposed person so or a minister. Now minister and so could just a minister in the previous regime or in opposition or a government official in opposition or previous regime. Onon kwan aban esika no.
Nhyira FM.
We can be of protocol mesa etiso. Me say without the collaboration of the public servant, the politician cannot take much from the public funds.
Mm.
If the public servant does not collaborate, because me say aban account to be a horma minister and one signature and that's all because etiamra nti the minister mpo esan I just say obi so sign.
Yeah.
And I check no kura and na minister few and then na botum. E wo accountant office. There say for check no bra chro check bra. Na ye pese ye ko yi sika se na unim se sika no emfa kwa mu a adenti na wo de ko he. Ansana ye nu ho so no. Na e friend say mpanyimfo a wo mu adwuma mu obi a certify unim payment voucher.
PV.
I tell you payment voucher no so a signatures a goose in Yagro. 15, 20. We approve now. We are recommending. Now we approve. Akron phone kwa. Ye pese ye tuasia. I say ye hwehwe mu nyina echi wo mu bomu. Ebi onko gina asendibia. No na beba man for aye ahweyi.
Finally, na minim se woko. Minim se Rajo Mahama Emma in any case mo amutie madam ye ne Nhyira Daniel Yao Domelevo ono a former auditor general and member of oral committee any twetwem come former auditor general Nhyira Daniel Domelevo oni ene na extensively on corruption, education and other stuff yeguswa ene twetwem come so far me ate ase say corruption fight no as I grow ni edi yebetimi ayi ni yi current one now amaya boss wa mu ehunu ni say ye kase panyi bi adisika obi ne sign ma no ntinke ya chi ani achi omu nyina bom ba bo wanze achi esorofo ne ketwa bi na de onu wia no de bi obegusu awia na obo amankofo e no che say se omo mu wo ho eye internal auditors accountant na sefo ese omu momu wia na emomu so pe bi adidie omu so be force but senior finally mpese mbusa ebia Nhyira Mahama na sese ono nso wasachira sese wo se corruption no ono no de no esobete anaso obetu ase ba ye won nkofo bi omo nso bre ye yi sikade ye campaign ene enyina anim se political financing no obi a woni interest se minko yi sika 10 billion emma wo meye prr na woma mi position wi a waba be ka tem se mintimi nya akwanya enya sika na no you can say Elvis Anka every okay I say the reality is that omo sponsor ye no omo we interest into the nipa no me di misika amount 70 billion one na say for aba now be catch them me say eja isa na pa kire say John Mahama eye ya wo de be hwew eja wo kofie kra be hwew na yen ya bre no e wo se enyi esika wo enti Nhyira Mahama person solve corruption ne nkrofo atwa no ho asie yi omo nso was attitude na Nhyira Mahama enya idie e be fa
asem no o de abaye o asem pa no we wakobo because yen corruption ne far by na your political financing because wutie ya almost ansana obetima be MP no sika obehia e dey campaign agro na president dey ebro adwene entiase so na obi de sa $20 million anase 100 million Ghana cedis emma na say uba bemu a obetumi ahwe ne saa anu ye no eye 2 metumi aka say an na dabi na mechechire mu say sa democracy is not limited to Ghana and it's not limited to only Africa. Party financing is a worldwide problem. It's not only in Ghana and it's not only in Africa. The challenge is that how we address our financiers is the problem. How we address our financiers. If you go to the US and you go to the UK, etc., I can authoritatively say that they also do party financing. But how do they repay their financiers? And the same public procurement process here. So they can award you a contract to say, do dollars Accra to Tamale. So when you profit 1% there, so 1% is more than enough to cover how much you spend on the party. And our approach in Ghana, no any problem. It is if you actually provide the service and you make profit out of it, that profit or the margin is what you are supposed to use to compensate yourself. And yes, when you may be an assistant crata out said, ura yourself not for muye. Now, ye trace come out. Auditors say for a juma muye browse would be a national security issue. Oh, and to say yes, sir. Now, me kana obi ka kire me emi o meeting bi ase outside Accra Ghana me ntumi nkire baby a meeting no na me kobo ase mi so na obi ka kire me say sa 1 or 2% na America no eno na ye de adwuma wo Africa na 98% no yaje ashe ye bottom na on my cost no and it is just the mindset and the methodology or the approach. Because obieni wa or business onya profit. And the contractors are big pushy. They are all going to make profit out of their job. And the juma now we jumano now unya emu profit editia sa finance in a car and hardly. The problem ne say ye buy near tamsika near the amount. Unya juma pianso near the amount. Any problem no.
Interesting.
So political financing is a challenge. But the way we address it in Ghana is the problem. It's not that we cannot satisfy. In fact, I keep arguing that the two are not mutually exclusive. The two are mutually inclusive. You can satisfy your investors whilst providing quality service to your people. Value for money. Because see a business a Kwame Nebefa so SC KNUST and a Kwame Nkrumah University a war baby away. Everybody will tell you that the estimate is between A plus this or minus that. A range and yet fixed amount. And see sikana say within the range any problem. But yendi say university na yensi yes it is kenina ama oniano. And any problem. Is the methodology or the approach and the mindset.
Finally, Nhyira John Mahama or your concern say sa corruption yi KCC konanse na me ready bibi kakra free Burkina Faso soja ban bae no nyoma bi wo ho a watimi agege aboa o man no omu minerals ne nyoma bebre or you are aware with the data that suggests say Ghana youth no dodo na be prefer say we be 10 mu be 3B 4B kase the enyome kono yinya soja ban ba ebe boa. Is that a concern to President John Dramani Mahama? I say ono de by say Mahama is the hope. Say ye betimi enya a certain John Mahama on meye te say na no de na oye no. Nemum obefri so by 2028 no. Ni enya John Mahama na breso corruption eso teye ema sikadie ni sikawia no eso teye ana.
Minia we dey omanpanyin onfan cheme menini edi nkomo bi na meka but menini permission say meka but onfan cheme misre na menini di nkomo bi encheye ina me di tu na anim say
se ohwe ekwan a Ghana for so agigi Burkinabe president emra oba na sharing in no ohwe ekwan Ghanaians area as against all other democratic leaders omuba empu yanti omunka enye se born ebo mudi anka enim se omuba empu a nje se Ghanaians are looking for leadership not democracy nti onwe yi na my democracy what means leadership ena me saying so reminding no say minister for I think environment I've made different the one who told Nana Addo Dankwa in parliament said, you have taught us how not to govern. Mikalansi Kachin say yes. Nanado, and I have no doubt with that, say Nanado Dankwa Kufuado has shown us how not to govern. But it is for him, His Excellency John Mama, to show us how to govern. And yes, idea. Now we're here. When him and you are not the mommy. Okache me say on the one you mu no nim say ofeli Ghana fo a enche bia kubesi
wow
enche ono akan if you know na buy say enche bia Ghana fo because otumu say Ghana fo ni ji buga na say military approach normal content tem na say for no Ghana fo ni ji ho nti say odi Ghana fo hiamo a enche bia kubesi na ni oka ka ho a elu nwa kwa ni say o see Sesa Kunusia, one former presidency na yabechi omi na ko foreign squad. S2 Mako.
Wow.
On one kind, Osandi to us say Rollins any atames de omuti ya omawu. Inti omu de oma for mu.
There's a car on no Kufuor ne Nana Kufuor.
Osi wa omuti ase ni de. Onyini se omefo omu hwedi. Inti megini se onimpa se se ofeli omanya nsunsuanso a de beba oman mu no enye papa nti me gidi se obeye
mate Yera Daniel ya Domelevo, thank you so much. Minim say na pressure was soon so eje bebia wo nya me se papa ne de yankasa mewu because nyame nshira pa I'm sure say we are part 1 ebenya part 2 ni part 3 bebre nshira femeti fo so energy ye da se wetimi ni yakasa. God bless you.
Miss Medamase, bye-bye.
Bye. Former Auditor General, member of the Oral Committee in Parliament. In your Parliament, we are at the presidency. And na ene chuchu nkomo. Mami bi line so na ye chuchu nkomo kakra. Na